In today's video, I'm going to share one of my most popular blog posts and most handy tips that I have devised to fast track the recruitment process. One of the biggest time sucks in the whole recruitment process, and I know this after 15 years of recruiting, is sifting through piles and piles of resumes that you get for a position. So I devised a really easy way to quickly screen out people before bringing them in for your main interview. And I'm going to share that process with you today. It is called a 15-minute phone interview. Using this method, I can quickly look at resumes and decide whether I want to call them in for an interview or not. But before I call them in for that main interview, I will have a 15-minute phone conversation with them, a very structured 15-minute phone conversation. And I'm going to share with you today not just what I asked them during the interview, but also how I scheduled the 15-minute phone interviews back to back with minimal effort, so that the whole booking process, which I know sometimes can take a really long time trying to coordinate calendars and things like that, it actually literally takes 5 minutes to book 8 interviews. Stay tuned and let me show you how. Okay, very quickly before I start, I want to make sure that you have subscribed and you've hit the subscribe button below and the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. If you don't know me and you are new here, my name is Sadaf Sheikh, and every week I come back with videos on how to build and lead a high-performing team. All right, now let's get to it. Okay, there are 2 parts to this 15-minute phone interview process. Number 1 is booking the interviews, and number 2 is actually having the interviews. There is also a sort of part 2B where you're evaluating the interviews. We'll get to that at the end. But first, let's start with how to book the interviews. Now, I am going to share my screen for this one, but just beforehand, I want to say, when you go through your resumes, you should very quickly be able to scan a resume in 10 seconds or less to see whether they have the sort of job titles and whether they're located in the right country, whether they have the right education experience, if that's a specific thing that you're looking for, if they have a certification or something like that. And if they have all of those things, the next thing you want to do is actually speak to them to make sure that A, they can string a coherent sentence together, B, they can explain to you exactly why they applied for your role. A lot of times people, especially for junior roles, will apply for roles simply because. And so we want to make sure that they are clear on why they're applying for your specific role, what appealed to them about your job description. And then lastly, you're also looking to find out if they have the critical 1 or 2 things that you need from this particular candidate or, future employee when they come on board. All right, I'm going to show you how to do the booking. Join me on my screen. Okay, so I have my calendar open here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how to book time for 15 minutes each. So you basically block off time, and let's say you have 8 resumes and you have candidate A. You're going to meet with them from 10 to 10:15, and I'm going to show you exactly what you're going to ask these people in the 15-minute time frame. But for each of these, you're going to book an interview, and I'm going to tell you why you're doing it this way. So you book this one from 10:15 until 10:30. So this is probably the most time-consuming part, is actually booking these interviews in. Another thing that I do to make things easy is that I will actually also attach the attach the resume on here, or I'll have them. I'll put a link into the Google Drive where I've saved these resumes. But you don't have to do that. I do that to make it easier on myself when I'm doing these interviews. All right. Next step then is to actually invite them into the interview. Now, the reason why you've already booked these times in advance, okay, once you've booked them, this is what it will look like. I know it looks a little bit busy, but here you have 8 interviews scheduled in just 2 hours. And in these 8 interviews, you're going to get a gold mine of information that you just can't get from a resume. All right, once you have all of these blocked off on your calendar, now it's time to send the meeting invites to the people themselves. Now, it's super simple to send the meeting invite, and here's how. You pull up the resume, send an email to the person, like start to compose an email to the person, and here's what you say. Hi there, thank you so much for your application for X role. Your resume looks really interesting, and I'd love to talk a little bit more with you about your background and your past experience. Let me know if this date and this time that you're picking from what you had already blocked off in your calendar works for you. I look forward to speaking with you. Now, the reason you're giving them the date and the time without any opportunity for them to rebut that is because 95% of the time people will accept if you give them a date and a time and in a 15-minute time slot. They will accommodate somehow. And I know this because I have sent this out, the exact same message out to hundreds of people, and 95% of the time people will say yes. That odd time they may come back and say, no, that doesn't work for me, and that's fine, then you can adjust. But this makes the whole process so much easier. You do not have to go back and forth. You don't have to say to them, oh, well, what works for you? This works for me. Of course, these days, you have applications like Calendly, but if you don't have Calendly or scheduling software like that, then you can absolutely just do this method and it works. Okay, once that's done and they've accepted, now it's time to start the interview. Now, the good thing about this process, this 15-minute phone interview, is that because it's so structured, there is minimal prep time required. And that's why you can schedule these back to back, because literally you can go from one to the next without any preparation. Now, in order to help you with this no prep, I have a worksheet and a guide that goes along with this video, and I want you to download it before you go any further. Download it and pull it up in front of you, and then we can walk through it together. But basically, you have 5 questions that you're going to ask your candidates, and I'm going to go through those one by one. The first question you're going to ask them is to summarize their resume and their past experience in 2 to 3 minutes. And there's a few reasons why you do this. Number one, you want to see how concisely they can talk about their past experience. So you've given them a time limit of 2 to 3 minutes. The other thing is you want to see how quickly they can summarize something in a really short amount of time, because a lot of people have this bizarre failing that they keep going on and on and on and on about a topic, and they just don't know when to shut up. And if that's not something that you find appealing, or that's something that you find irritating, it's good to figure that out early on in the process. I know for me, it drives me mental. So it's good for me to figure that out right early on. Now, because you've given them 2 to 3 minutes, absolutely you can cut them off at that time and say, that's fine, thank you, we'll get to that later if we have time. I only have 15 minutes, so we're going to move on to the next question. That's it. The next question you're going to ask them is, why did you apply to this role and in this company? And the reason you're asking them this question is because you want to find out why exactly did they apply for your role. You want to hire people who feel something about your organization. And it could be anything, or it could be something about the role that really spoke to them. But unless they have a really clear reason, I don't move them forward to the next stage of the interview or the recruitment process. I want people who applied for this role intentionally, and not just because it was a role that kind of matched their previous roles that they had occupied in other organizations. Or worse, when they say, oh, I can't remember what the job description was, could you remind me? No. So this is a really important question. As far as I'm concerned, it gives you great insight into the person and how they approach how they approach anything, really. The next 2 questions could be anything you need them to be. These are critical things that you need any person that joins your organization to have. It could be a specific skill, it could be a specific education requirement, certification, background, it really anything that you need it to be. And this is an opportunity for you to ask them. Usually this takes about another 3 to 4 minutes each. And again, feel free to cut them off if they keep going on and on and on, but this is a good indication of how they respond to questions and how they respond to life in general. And the final question you ask them is their salary expectations. Now, of course, it's important to know what their salary expectations are, but if they don't want to give you the salary expectations, don't fret about it. It's not a big deal. You give them the salary range that you're offering for this role. And the reason you do that right at this point in time before you bring them in is because you want to vet those people that aren't going to be a good fit. So if you are offering $80,000 and somebody expects $120,000, it's not going to be the right fit. Like, they're not going to be happy with a $40,000 pay cut. Similarly, if they say that they want $50,000 and you're paying $80,000, that kind of says something a little bit about their background and experience if that's what's showing on their resume. Now, it could also mean that they've just been underpaid in the past for various reasons. Invisible minorities and women, for example, are historically have been victim of this. So take this with a grain of salt. But if you find that their resume also doesn't exactly match what you're looking for, is a bit too junior, and they're asking for less money, chances are it's probably not going to be a match. And then finally, once your entire block of interviews are finished, you can then grade each of those interviews to say, what are you going to bring them back in for the next round, or are you going to pass? In any event, whether you're bringing them back in or you're passing on them, my recommendation and my strong suggestion is to respond to these people and let them know your next, like what you're thinking. So just pull up the last email that you sent to them when you were booking these interviews and just say like, thank you very much, we've decided to move on with somebody else, or thank you very much, we'd like to bring you in for some further conversations. And it's really, really important to treat every single person with the utmost respect. They have taken the time to apply for a job. They took the time to have that 15-minute phone conversation with you. It's really important that you get back to them and let them know how they did, and not necessarily how they did in terms of feedback, but whether they're moving on to the next step or not. This one trick, this 15-minute phone interview, has saved me, I cannot even tell you how many hours of time over the last several years that I've been implementing this process. This 15-minute phone interview was a blog post that I wrote back in 2019. It is currently ranking #1 on Google. It brings me anywhere from 1,500 to 1,800 visitors per month on just this one blog post. It is hugely popular. It has helped not just me, but countless other HR professionals and small business CEOs. So make sure you download that guide below and comment and let me know if you found this useful and if you're going to implement it in your own recruitment process. That's it for today. Come back same time, same place next week, and make sure you check out these other videos that I did all around recruitment and hiring the best candidates, and I will see you next time.